We've added a vehicle to our scene. Now the next thing that we need to add is an obstacle. So we're going to choose one and place it in front of the player. Make sure to watch me before you do this yourself. Now down in our project window where we got our vehicles, we're going to make sure that we go to the sidebar, select our course library so that we can see all of the other folders inside of our course library. And then we're going to go to the obstacles folder and double click. And you can see here we have all of these different options that we can select from. I'm going to choose this crate because our truck actually has some boxes on it, so it looks kind of similar. So this time I'm going to left click and drag our crate, but instead of going into the hierarchy, I'm going to drag it directly into our scene view, and you can see that it's actually updating live wherever my mouse is positioned. And in fact, if I drag it closer to the road, it actually snaps directly onto the road. I can even do it with the car. Look, there's a box on the car. So I'm going to release my mouse button now, and you can see our box has been positioned in our scene. Now, in Unity, we actually have coordinates to keep track of where our objects are in the world. So, for example, our truck is actually in the center, the exact center of this virtual world we've created. At 0, 0, 0, you can see that by going and clicking on the truck, make sure it's selected. On the right side of Unity, you can see the inspector window pop up, and it expands. Underneath the inspector, at the very top of all of the different options, there's our transform. These are called components. So our transform component specifically carries the data around our position, our rotation, and our scale. The rotation and scale we'll get to in a little bit. With our position, you can see that it's set to 0, 0, 0. If I compare that to our crate, by selecting our crate, you can see that the crate information is now in our inspector. Our crate is positioned at 4.8, negative 0.0 on the Y, and then 4.26 on the Z. Handily, you can actually tell all of these different letters from these arrows over here on our box. So currently we have our move tool selected. You can actually see which tools we currently have selected in the top left. We'll go through some of the other ones in a bit. With our move tool, you can see the up arrow. So in fact, if I left click and drag on this green arrow, you can see over on the right side in our inspector, the Y position changes. If I want to undo what I just did, I can use Control or Command Z. You can do the same thing with the X, which in this case is this red arrow. And I'll undo that with Control or Command Z. And with the blue arrow, this is RZ. So I'll undo that. So I'm going to reposition this crate, and I can do this one of two ways. I can either do it by going to the inspector on the right underneath our transform. If I actually select the box, you can see that all of the text is now highlighted. I can actually type in 0. And if I type in 0, you can see that now our box is moved all the way in front of our vehicle. Now, if I were to set all of these to 0, that would take a really long time, and I don't want to do that. So in our transform, you can actually see all the way on the right side of our component, there's this little gear icon. So if I left click on the gear icon, you can see that there are different options, and one of the options is reset position. So if I left click that, now our positions are set to 0, 0, 0. And so now what I can do is if I want to move our box now that everything's at 0, now I'm going to do this the easy way where I can just type in the values in our inspector. So I want this to be a good distance away, and it would be a lot of work to just drag it with our move tool. So instead, I'm just going to go into the inspector on the right side. In our transform position, I'm going to select the Z text. If I click on it, you can see that now it highlights that text, and I can just type in 25. And it automatically moves my box 25 units away on the Z. And a handy thing to know in Unity is that each individual unit, so if I had a Z of 1, that would actually just be 1 meter. So we actually moved this box 25 meters on the Z position, which moved it in front of our vehicle. Last but not least, I'm going to do some cleanup on my different objects. So my crate, I'm going to rename. So my crate, what I'm going to do is in the hierarchy on the left side, if I right click on the crate, I can rename. There's a rename option. I left click that. Now I can type in anything I want. So I'll call this an obstacle for now. And then with our truck or vehicle, if you select the vehicle in the hierarchy, you can actually rename this through the inspector on the right side. If you see at the top, you have the same name that's in the hierarchy on the left. So if I actually click on that text, it highlights all of it. If I type in vehicle and I press enter, now you see in our hierarchy, our truck has been renamed vehicle. So different ways that you can rename your objects. So what you're going to do is in your project window, select the course library, double click on the obstacles folder, left click and drag one of your obstacles into the scene. And then when your obstacle is in the scene, if you select it in your hierarchy by clicking on it, on the right side, you can see all of the information in the inspector about the obstacle's components. Rename your obstacle to obstacle, and then you're going to go to the transform component. Underneath that section, you're going to go all the way to the right. There's this little gear icon. Left click, reset position. So it's back at 0, 0, 0, right where our vehicle is. And then once you've done that, you can go and select the position Z, click on it, and then you can type in whatever number that you want, and it'll move that obstacle in the Z direction. And then what you're going to do is you're then going to select your vehicle, and you're going to rename the vehicle that you have selected to just be called vehicle. Now it's your turn.